Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first installment of the Sophie series, Artist Spotlights, featuring our fabulous singers. And our first singer in this set, this cycle, is the incredible multi-genred, multi-talented Meghann Welsh. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm still like getting used to like interviewing my friends.
I
Like,
know.
there's some sort of like actual distance between us, you know? Oh man, it's strange. Uh,
Helps us keep it professional.
yeah, right. Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
Good to meet you. So, Meghann Welsh, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where have you been? And just who do you think you are?
Oh, ooh.
Oh,
Well, I'm from Santa Rosa, California, Sonoma County. So that's, not significant in any way.
oh, it's totally important.
And I slowly kind of made my way down the coast to San Diego through a number of different stay in school as long as possible strategies. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And how long have you been here in San Diego?
I've been here for a full decade, I think exactly as long as you have.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly a
Yeah,
decade.
exactly.
Well,
Actually,
no,
no.
more. No, we're
Oh
in
my
our
God,
11th year,
time moves on. Holy shit. Okay.
allegedly.
Yeah. 11 years.
11 years this fall.
September, yeah.
Whoa. Yeah, that's definitely the longest I've
Yeah,
ever
same.
stayed in any one place. Wild. So tell us a little bit about I guess, your singing journey. So your first degree is in vocal performance, which is like the opera degree, right? So you did that
Hmm.
at UC Santa Cruz,
Hmm.
right? And how did you get into? How did you discover opera? I don't know. It feels like a weird thing for kids to pick up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No one listened to the radio in my house growing up. No one introduced me to popular music or anything more normal. My dad is a trombone player, and he would play in big bands, but he'd also play in orchestras. And so there's also always, um, you know, old time Dixieland big band playing, or there was opera, crazy, big, loud, big voiced singers on the
Yeah.
record player. And so that's what I was exposed to. And um, why did I pursue it? I don't
That's
know.
the
Yeah,
question.
I don't know.
You know,
I think,
I don't know that I even know why I did it either. I think
right,
my
right.
teacher told me to, and I was like, okay.
Well, no, I think that is kind of how it happened. It was like I know I wanted to continue to sing when I went to college, but I didn't go to college for music. I was like undeclared for a long time, but the only way to be able to take voice lessons was to declare myself a music major. And so I'm like, okay, I can change it later. And then my teacher just kind of like was like, well, your voice is suited towards this. I'm like, well, I enjoy that, so great. Let's keep doing
Yeah,
it.
okay,
You know?
cool. Seems
Yeah,
to fit.
yeah, and I did really love it. So,
That's so great. And,
yeah.
but then how did you get into more, so going from your operatic training and the background in like bel canto technique to like full-throated belty blues mama, like how did you get there?
um, so I think all of us who go through grad school, in probably whatever field, but in music, we start to feel maybe smothered or squashed by the seriousness of the pursuit and especially in maybe new music or very precise music, you feel constrained.
Hmm.
And so pursuing something that's still music, still singing, but outside of that, like really um, um, uh, precise music was a really great outlet. And I think a few of us from the UCSD music department kind of felt the same way, and we started playing music together. And we started an old time band, and I through my dad's big band in Dixieland record collection, I'd been exposed to that and always loved it. But this was a really a good time to start to exercise it. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, so it was more like just like a bit of an outlet, some way to kind of blow off the high art academic steam.
Absolutely, absolutely, totally. And actually, it's funny in doing that kind of just like full throated singing where you can let go and not worry about precision exactly, or not worry about like a performance practice that you're supposed to interpret a certain way. You do develop your voice in a more free and comfortable way. And I think it was super good for vocal technique. I think it was super good for, finding a sense of. I'm really into like how our personalities can confine and constrain us.
Oh yeah.
And in singing in a full, throated, less confined way, you start to feel a little different. And in feeling a little different, then you use your voice a little bit different, and then it kind of like feeds on each other. And it was great. It actually helped my classical singing out, actually.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting, like, I think something to like really bring this point home, that like for singing, you kind of, I don't know, it's like you have to find the pants that fit you the best to make your butt look good. Like you have to find you got to find the type of music that really allows you, that you like, you connect in a way that you feel suddenly like self-consciousness goes out the window, because the greatest destroyer of the voice is insecurity.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
the first thing to betray you when you're self-conscious in any way. You get frozen and you immediately hold it back in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Go
It's
ahead.
no, yeah, it's such a like the personality and the voice. They're so obviously tied together. We have
Yeah.
vocal identity. We hear ourselves a certain way, and if we go back and we listen to ourselves, and we hear something that doesn't match who we think we are, we get uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even though that's like really uncomfortable, I think it's an important thing to do. Starting to shed any idea of a vocal identity, kind of like it frees us to use our voice in another way. And then I think kind of already said this, but in starting to
Say
use
it
our
again.
voice, um, in starting to use our voice in another way, we realize that that we can feel a new way. So it's like liberating in two ways. It's like we can use our voice to access a more comfortable personality or identity,
Uh-huh.
and then that more comfortable personality can like feed back on the voice, and it's just this progressive. I mean, it's like way harder to do than that, but that's
And it's also like
approach.
completely always changing,
And
right?
it's
That
always
like, yeah, so that the not only is your body and voice itself changing over time, and who you are changes over time.
yeah.
So your approach to music, to sound, the way that you hear, the way that you can maybe at times dissociate and look
Yeah.
objectively,
Mm-hmm.
more objectively than subjectively or personally.
Mm-hmm.
That changes over time. It's like this thing just like never ends. You never not think about it. You're gonna never not consider. Okay, well, how is this today? How am I feeling today? How is it different than it was a week ago? And where do
Mm-hmm.
I want it to go?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And because our instrument's our body and it's constantly changing and it's so tied into our psychology, you you have to be okay with it not being consistent. And
Yeah.
that's really hard to get used to, especially when and other interviewees have talked about this. When it's a recording and you hear it forever a certain way, or it's going to be recorded forever, you just have to let it go. It's like, you know what, today I sound like that.
That
And
is, and that is the artifact of that day.
of that day,
Of
I'm
that day.
probably not going to sound the way tomorrow. I might be better or worse, or I'll sound huskier, or my range will be different, or I'll have bad allergies, or my hormone, who knows?
Who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah. Oh my God. Let's like talk about the hormonal problem in
haven't faced it yet, but there's going to be menopause,
Yeah.
and then we'll sing even lower, and
Yeah, but Megan,
that's
can
kind of
you
cool.
imagine? That's like I'm kind of like that's my carrot. I'm super
Yeah,
looking
yeah,
forward to that.
I am looking forward to that too. It's like I get a new instrument. That's
A
cool.
whole new thing. You can finally, this is your moment, Megan. You can finally dive into your like Russian contralto like
Ah, ah,
fantasies.
Russian horror show, yeah.
Okay, so wait, I want to talk about that too, because how did you get into your like obsession with Russian
It's an
music?
obsession.
Isn't
Um, I just like it.
it?
I do. I think it's all tied into the language. I think the language is so beautiful, and it's
Yeah.
so it just like fits in my mouth just right, and all the sounds are just fascinating to me. So I think, and there's something about the way the language affects how we resonate, and the
Yeah.
dark Russian awe, and the luz, and like
Cool.
everything that kind of like changes how we feel resonance in our mouth. And so like yeah, language is definitely how I well that's not my first the first way I fell in love with yeah, Russian stuff. Ballet. Ballet is my
Yeah.
original entry point, but yeah.
That's right, because your previous life you were a ballerina.
That's yeah. Previous life was a ballerina, so yeah. And young ballet dancers idolize the Russians. So
For obvious reasons.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but like I mean, so ballet and music pursuits are not like I don't think totally removed from each other.
No
There
way.
is no
Yeah.
ballet without sound, and for a singer, there's no sound without a really intimate understanding of body and
Mhm.
alignment and gesture and posture.
Yes, yeah.
It's
Think
like forever intertwined.
momentum is like the idea of like movement and momentum and breath and phrasing can save a throat. It can save a boring piece of music. You know thinking about yeah, movement in our airflow. I mean, it's moving, and
It is.
can we shape it?
Let's address the diagram behind you. You have this
Oh yeah.
perfect little representation of airflow and tongue position.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, we want to optimize resonance, and our tongue, a giant muscle, can really get
Oh,
in our way.
oh man, it's a jerk.
It's a jerk, and sensation doesn't always match what we want out of our sound. So sometimes we feel like that air, like when we take a good breath, it wants to go directly back in our throat.
Yeah,
We should probably avoid that. And
yeah.
instead, we want to imagine a shape and a movement of airflow might help keep our tongue from getting in our way.
From
So,
going all like
yeah, yeah.
choking. Literally, it chokes you guys. Everybody, it chokes us. You don't want that. It's bad for your sound. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah,
The
there it is.
little vocal technique aside, I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Megan, I mean, you talk a lot about even in your doctoral work and what you were doing at UCSD. You talk a lot about the voice and the identity, and that and I think we've had like endless conversations about things like Mladen Dolar and these people who consider the voice and nothing more. And so like what got you going on that path about thinking about the sort of enmeshment
Yeah.
of persona and sound.
Yeah, so I think in halfway down the coast, as I made my way to San Diego, I started getting more into vocal pedagogy,
Mm-hmm.
and that I was really fascinated by that because I had so many vocal issues.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to sing without getting tired really fast. It was hard to sing without sometimes, especially if I was in front of other people, feeling like a horrible lump in my throat. And no one up to that point could help me figure that out. I just didn't quite know how to find my way, and
Mm-hmm.
so exploring vocal pedagogy and teaching kind of helped me discover it like a better approach for myself through trying to help other people. But tied into that, no matter what we do, physically, technically, like tongue placement,
Hmm.
or looking great like that.
Having bright eyes,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Right.
our friend
Well,
back
that
there.
can't hurt. Yeah. Um, if 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 like so much of our muscular tension is tied into our brain, our psychology, and so if we can't if we can't address that as well, then we're probably not going to make any progress.
Right.
And so I really started getting into that, and also in teaching, you hear a lot. I want to find my own voice, or people want to sound a certain way, or they think they should sound a certain way, and starting to think about that, how these expectations can really get in people's like creative potential way, like
Yeah.
they really undermine themselves. So um, trying to
But also knowing like
yeah
something that like I think was a game changer for me was that I that, that I like never I will never really know what I sound like. Like never. You
yeah
know, the microphones are fine, but for the most part microphones are shit and
right
they tell us a lie.
mhm,
And so like that was a bit of a like, oh,
right
okay. Then I don't
right
have to worry about that so
right.
much anymore.
If you can't know, let it go.
Let
And
it go.
yeah.
If you can't know, let it go. Megan Welsh. Let's put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Man,
That's so good.
gems.
God, that is so good. So anyway, get a therapist, get a voice teacher. Your life will
Yeah,
be forever
yeah,
changed.
and they're often the same thing. Yeah, yeah.
Right, right.
So yeah, the I've kind of I obsess over this idea of a depersonalized voice, and absolutely, we don't want to sing a song and sound like we're uninvolved. Like we want to bring character and personality, but that's not quite what that means. It's like how can I how can I not let my personality get in my way?
Yeah,
It's really hard to do.
yeah.
Whether it's you're a woman and as a young girl you were always taught you should never be loud or
Or
squeal. Or
shrill. Ooh, my
shrill. That's the
favorite
yeah,
words.
absolutely. And
Embrace
so,
your shrill, ladies.
yeah. And a lot of women singers have a hard time singing high and have a hard time being loud.
Hmm.
And men, I mean, there are physical differences, but a lot of it's like, oh no, I need to hold back because I'm not supposed to be high or loud, and it's so ingrained. They don't mean to, obviously,
Right.
but it's hard to get over that stuff that's so drilled
And
in.
also like young every single female adult singer I have ever taught, doesn't matter if they're in their 20s or if they're in their like in their 70s, they all have a moment in their youth and like when they're 12 and 13 of somebody saying, oh honey, maybe
Yeah,
you
yeah,
shouldn't sing anymore, and so
um,
they zip it up. And that is pretty much all we're working to overcome, is that in that one person at an
mhm,
impressionable age
mhm.
said that they sounded bad.
Yeah,
And so
right.
at that age you take that to mean, oh well, I'm bad
Absolutely,
then I suck.
absolutely. Because that identity and the voice, or they're so connected.
So
Um,
so ingrained. Ah,
Yeah, I
ah,
mean, there's no easy way to free ourselves of all that bullshit, but
all that bullshit.
we can try, and the process is fun, and you
Hmm.
know, yeah, always always looking to embrace that we're always going to sound a little different. Don't get too attached.
Right,
Um,
right. So
yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about Codex Confiteor, your other
Ooh.
persona. So you are ballerina, a Russian a Russian music expert,
Not
or
true.
just not true. Opera singer, blues belty blues singer, and you also do some noise where you do um, processing on your voice and your accordion, which is a fucking great instrument. But let's talk a little bit about how you got into noise. What is noise, and what do you find in that musical practice?
Yeah, so there's probably a lot of people think of noise in different ways, and even people who make that music. Uh, for us, it doesn't necessarily have to be doesn't have to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be even melodic. It sounds sometimes for the sensation's sake. It sounds to push what people think of as a sonic experience. So like sometimes you don't need to go to a concert and be entertained by really engaging chord progression. It's like maybe there are other ways to experience sound, and some noise music can help people. Help people. It's an outlet for both musicians and audience members to.
No, that's your thing. You're trying to get people to understand
Yeah.
themselves
Yeah.
through music and vocal utterances. So it's also that. All right.
Noise music is sonic therapy. Nah, nah.
No, it
No.
can be.
Yeah.
Occasionally I found it to be like that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna like bathe in this swirling assault of registration and feedback. It can be that. But anyway,
You can do that. With my project with Jonathan, we use it as a outlet to explore music ideas without any confines of genre or anything like that, and working with textures and timbres and these other this like the sound palette that's pretty epic. It's
mm-hmm.
it's epic in thickness and density of sound. It's epic in the like rumbling sensations of like low tuba notes and all the effects and whatnot, and that's just like the blues. It's just like another way to let go and explore like the voice for me, but just creative ideas and like noise music is just there's so it's such like a broad I don't even know if I want to call it a genre. It's just like such a broad outlet that there's no expectations, and like how freeing is that? It's like you can explore whatever you want, and it's hard to find that. It's like if you want to do country music, you better have some twang. If you want to do opera, you better have this vibrato. And this is like I can have twang and vibrato, and I can maybe have some straight tone, and I could maybe just make weird bird sounds, or it's awesome to have one project where I can try everything out.
Yeah. And explore like the ugly and the like the aggressive and destructive.
And destructive.
Too.
Absolutely. It's like, this is what my voice sounds like when it gets really tired, but that's okay. This sounds, it can sound really interesting, and let's use that. Yeah. Yeah. Noise music.
Noise music. How did you decide to include the accordion?
Um, it does add. The accordion just has such like enveloping timbre. I love it as a support for my own singing. It just makes me feel more comfortable to have this like poof of air and vibraty reeds all around me. So yeah, this kind of like nice resonant support. It also can sound like a lot of different things. It's got the bellows air noise. It's got the rich low organ sound. It's got the clicking of the reeds. It can just sound like a wall of really horrible noise. But I feel like it lends itself with if you're working with effects and pedals and whatnot. Sometimes it's hard to incorporate acoustic instruments, or I find it hard to make everything kind of work together. And for some reason, I feel like the accordion's easiest for me to incorporate.
It's also a little security blanket too. Right?
No, yeah, it's like that's number one. It's just like I can like like hug it and squeeze it. It's great.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah,
like rock back and forth, and it's just a little bit of bitty protection
absolutely. No,
from
it's
the
huge.
gaze of the audience.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
we're
I know.
devouring you.
Jonathan gets to hug his tuba. I need something to hug too. So,
Ah,
yeah.
ah, that's so sweet.
And it's funny the accordion and the saw that I play in codex.
Yeah,
They were
hang on. Let's like make sure everybody heard
okay.
that. She also plays the musical Saw, which is so
Musical saw.
badass. So good.
They were rejected from the early music or the old time music band because they were considered slightly too hokey or like a gimmick, and so and, and to be able to like use them once again without genre constraints
Yes.
um, it feels so fun. It's like they can add such cool sounds and yeah, and I just get to play them. That's.
Hokey my ass, man. They are great.
Glad you think
Such.
so.
I agree with you, Megan. They are amazing instruments. They have like such an amazing sound palette. Um, that I don't know, just adds like it adds these great like layers of like warmth and shrillness
And
and
chillness,
oh man.
yeah.
But like
No one really. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, there's many a joke. No one really wants to sit down and listen to the accordion or sit down and listen to the saw. So
right.
to find a context where people will listen to them is great.
That is great. Well, Megan, thank you ever so much for taking time out of your brilliant, beautiful life
Thanks
to
for
talk
talking to
with
me.
us.
Yeah, this is really fun, and
It was
thank you
really
for putting together really fantastic means to for us to keep making music right now. Yeah, really appreciate it.
It's entirely selfish. I just wanted to listen to all my friends make some things because I couldn't go see them live. Purely selfish. All right.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much.
All right.